Welcome to another game analysis by me, Simon Williams, and this is another game I played from the Jersey Polar Capital Congress. And I'm now going to take a look at a loss I played, and I think it's very important for us to analyse our losses to try and learn from our mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to repeat the same mistakes twice in life. I repeat the same mistakes about 400 times, but if you want to improve as a chess player and generally in life, you should learn from your mistakes. That's the idea anyway. So the game I'm about to show you now was extremely interesting, and it was I was going to say good fun. It's never good fun when you lose, but it was very entertaining. Some very exciting, imaginative ideas came into this weird. It was a weird game, messed up game. Now, it was played in the penultimate round, round 8. I was clear second at the time, and of course a win was very important. My opponent was an extremely talented player who I mentioned in my previous video, Alan Merry, and there is Alan Merry in the picture there. And Alan Merry is a player from England, and like I said, a very, very talented player. Expect he'll be GM one day. So it's really the kind of guy you want to beat now before he gets a lot better than you. That's what I was thinking, but it doesn't always work that way. And we'll come on to the game very, very quickly. Now, before I do go on to that, I've had a couple of inquiries about some more information about Jersey next year. Again, a tournament I really recommend you put in the diary and go to. It's quite cheap to get to, very nice, very quaint, great playing conditions, good chance to get a norm, can't fault it at all. Now, the web address of the Jersey competition this year is there as such, so if you copy and paste that or just pause the video, type that into your browser, you can check out any more information. And they're the main sponsors, Polar Capital. And let me just bring up their website there. And we met, I think, one of the leading guys there at the closing ceremony. He seemed like a very affable and nice chap. And they are an investment management company. And of course, we should support our sponsors, as without them, we wouldn't be playing these tournaments. So I'd like to thank Polar Capital. And also, I'd like to thank Jim Webster, who took this photo of me from the last round. There I am looking out the window at the sea, thinking whether I'm going to want to swim into the ocean or hit the bar after the game, depending on the result. But I really like that photo, so thank you, Jim Webster, for that photo of me playing. And I normally hate photos of myself, and I rarely watch videos of myself because I hate my voice generally, but I think everyone hates their own voice, don't they? So there you go. Now on to the game. So I was white, and there was a couple of openings I thought Alan might play, and I spent a little bit of time. I didn't spend a lot of time on knight to f6. I started with d4, and in my DVD, of course, the killer d4. Which is got some very good feedback so far. You can go to GingerGM.com and check out that DVD and buy it for a digital download. It's bound to help your chess. I recommend c4, but I wanted to play a little slightly different move order, because after c4 I saw Alan Merry has played c5 and b5, the Benko gambit. Probably a load of rubbish, this gambit, but I didn't fancy winning a pawn. I fancied sacking a pawn, kind of my style. But of course, in just to show you what I put in the killer d4 DVD as my main recommendation. I'm not the kind of person who goes around grabbing material. I want to checkmate my opponent. I give I think it's called the Nescafe Frap attack. No idea why it's given that ridiculous name, but a very interesting line here, which I give in the killer d4 DVD, is pawn takes pawn, a6, and now knight c3, pawn takes b5, e4 here, with the idea of b4. So this looks kind of rubbish for white, but it's a very crafty plan. knight b5, bravely diving into no man's territory. And if knight takes e4, so black has won a pawn, queen e2, and as Dr. Evil would say, is that right? Is that how he does it? I can't remember. And attacking the knight, and when the knight retreats, oh yes, checkmate. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Time to go to the bar. So that's what I give in the DVD, but of course I analyse some better options there for black. Because if I got that in every game, well, it would be a bit boring for a start, but I'd be a bloody high-rated player. Anyway, I decided to go knight f3, just like mixing things up. I like playing different openings, avoiding the Benko, which Alan played anyway. c5, and now I played d5, and now I went b5 anyway. And the point of this is, of course, I don't have a pawn on c4, so it gives me other options. And here I tried a kind of weird Tromposky, the main move, bishop g5. Alan played a6, and I'd seen he'd played this before. I now played a4, attacking his pawn structure on the queen side. And I have to admit, I think this should be an excellent position for white already. I don't trust black's opening. I don't trust b5 when white hasn't got c4. That's my gut instinct. Alan played b4, and already this gives me monstrous control of c4, either for my knight or for my bishop. Now I know that the winner of the tournament, Mark Hedman, in this position played simply bishop takes knight. And I think Keith Arkle, another English grandmaster and teammate of mine, plays this with some idea of c3 at some stage. And this should give white a small advantage. But in the morning, I came up with an idea here, which I found very interesting. And that was knight b d2, with the idea of sacrificing my central pawn on d5. If black does not take this pawn, I'm going to ram Eddie the Eagle e-pawn up. There's actually been a film coming out in the cinema on Eddie the Eagle, so that's a must-see for me, obviously based on the e-pawn. If that pawn's not taken, then I throw this pawn up the board. And I quite like keeping my dark square bishop in these positions. Even if I can double black's pawns, this is quite an important unit, I find, the bishop. Because black generally wants to fianchetto his bishop in this type of structure, the Benko, the Benoni, the King's Indian, when his bishop is on a good diagonal. And later on in the game, I want to have the option, when he fianchettos, of playing bishop h6 and getting rid of his strong bishop. So here it's critical what Alan played. Knight takes d5. And already after only 6 moves, we have a unique position. Now, what I didn't realise is that Alan had actually prepared this at some stage, and my preparation ran out after the next 2 moves, and I was on my own, but Alan had prepared that little bit further. Now, one obvious idea here, and there's already some beautiful concepts, is knight to c4. This is a very intriguing move, attacking the queen, but also with a deadly threat in mind. I mean, black can lose this position immediately. Now, for example, if black defends the knight with bishop b7, which I think a lot of players will consider doing, white already has a knockout blow. A massive move here, which wins on the spot. What's that move? You should all be able to find this. Look for the most forcing moves, checks and captures. Pause the video if you need to. And it's a wham, bam, thank you very much move. Knight d6 check. Oh, and it's a little bit like the knight check I just showed you in the Benko, the Nescafe Frapp attack. When black has to take the knight and we win the black queen, we win the game. So there's only one move after knight c4, knight to f6, and this is probably, I'd imagine, some move like e4 anyway, some good compensation for white. But I tried a different strategy here. I played e4 first, and this looked much more natural. Because if Mary moves his knight back to f6 now I go e5. And he could well be on the verge of losing here. If the knight comes back to d5 now I play the knight into here or to e4, and it's very hard to stop the threat of either knight d6 check winning the queen, or queen takes d5. So it looks so scary, this opening for black. So I mean, I was very happy at the time to get this on the board, but not so happy after Alan banged out his next couple of moves. He played at the speed of the speed of Ayrton Senna here, in an F1 car going around in first place, really fast. But I have to say, he played an excellent game here, and I'm very impressed with the way he played. Now, here Alan decided to drop his knight back to c7. Much more sensible move. And of course, I now continue with knight c4, hoping he'd miss this knight d6 check. And he has a lot of problems here already. I mean, how does he defend against knight d6? I mean, you can't go h6. Knight d6 check again, winning the queen. Very, very strong idea. And if he goes d6 here, I assumed at the time I blast the position open. And this is a key tactical idea for you guys at home. If you have an initiative, you have to play with passion, with energy, and you have to try to open the position up. If you have the better development, open up lines, open up diagonals. And the move e5 here, I think, would just be... Well, I mean, to put it lightly, this looks very scary for my opponent, and I believe he'd be in a lot of trouble here. But Alan, to my amazement, had prepared this position, and he had prepared the move f6. And he played this move again extremely quickly, but at the time I couldn't believe this was preparation, because I have to say, 25 years ago, when I was, well, maybe 20 years ago when I was about Alan's age, if I'd have looked at this position from the black angle, I would have been sick at the board. It looks absolutely revolting. I mean, you've weakened your king with f6. You've only got one piece to develop. Your king's in the centre. White's got some threats. A knight d6. It looks so anti-chess to me, and I think this shows how computers have changed the face of chess. They found ways to defend extremely ugly and, I would say, not intuitive positions, anti-intuitive positions. And the move f6 here is certainly something, I think, in days pre-computer, that this position people would not play. But Alan prepared this very well. And here I sunk into about a half an hour think. And I came up with some mad and wonderful ideas here. And this is why I fought for half an hour. I mean, my instinctive thought is here, right, I'm going to punish the young man and look at some of these lines. I mean, the reason I enjoy and actually analysing this game, even though I lost, there's a lot of beauty hidden behind this wall here. And the first thing that instinctively came to my brain, and now what I did was use the process of elimination. So I go with my instinctive thought first, analyse it as deeply as I can. If it doesn't work, I move on to another initial first move until I find something I'm reasonably happy with. This is what any player should do when deciding what to play in a complex position. But my initial thought was e5. Hello. And the idea behind this e5 move here is just to... Well, he's weakened this diagonal here, his light squares. And I want to ram Eddie into his... let's just say... his... I won't say, because it could come across wrong. But I want to ram it up the board, and I want to allow my bishop to come here with a very strong diagonal. I don't care if I sack a piece. Checkmate is the end of the game. And now I was analysing, of course, the only possible option for black to take my bishop. Knight takes g5. And I spent ages on this position because it looks scary for black. Now, for example, if my opponent plays a move without thinking, like g6, trying to block the diagonal towards his king, he can resign after queen to f3. Game over, resigns, thank you very much, because there's no way he's going to stop me coming in with f7, and it will be checkmate very quickly. So that is clearly not a possibility. So then I thought, what can he do? Well, he must get rid of this knight. Of course, h6, queen h5 will be mate. So I analysed knight e6 here. And I just couldn't find something here. My first intention was, well, what if I take the knight and play a move along the lines of queen f3 or bishop d3 here. I thought bishop d3, threatening queen to h5 check and taking on g6. But I couldn't get this variation to work. I just thought that my opponent would be able to defend here, maybe with a move like g6. I'm a whole piece down. I couldn't justify giving up the piece here. Some compensation, but enough. So then I thought next here, well, what about this interesting concept? Can I give up a second piece? Bishop to d3? This is the way my brain was working, just to give you an insight into how a Ginger GM thinks. And this is, well, now threatening queen to h5, followed by checkmate, if it's my move. And I spent a long time looking at knight takes g5. And here, well, I looked at queen h5 check. And now let's say g6. It doesn't matter. This does not work for me. g6, bishop takes g6 check, takes, queen takes g6, knight to f7. It looks like black is defending. And now e6. Pawn takes e6, knight to e5. Threatening, queen takes f7, mate. This looks like it could be very strong for me, but I realised black has rook to f7, and this defends the checkmate. If I take the rook, he takes my knight, and bloomin' what's happened to all my pieces? They've run away. I've given them all up. So, therefore, process of elimination, we go back, and I still wanted to stick with this line of thought. This is what I was thinking, and I had to now... I had to think, well, bishop d3, nope, let's not look at that anymore. Knight takes e6, no. And then I thought, well, what about knight takes h7? Oh, lordy, lordy, lord. And I thought, oh my words, this is going to be some very sexy chess if it works. And the point of this move is, well, queen h5 is mate. Now, I also saw that black has two moves here. I started looking at rook takes h7. I want to show this makes. It's very attractive. Bishop d3, not just threatening the rook, but threatening bishop g6, checkmate. Now, if black plays the idiotic rook h6, how can white win this position? And you know what? I'm not even going to tell you the answer. Leave it in the comments below. White to play and win. And this is sexy chess. Sexy and spicy chess. But I suddenly realised here, well, in this position, black always has a move d5, and he can start running with the king in a lot of possibilities. There's a number of things black can do. As well as d5, there's some other options, but I mean, I can only go so long in this video. I can't tell you everything I was thinking. So I then came to the conclusion, right, well, hang on a minute. This e5 move, which is my natural idea, I can't get it to work. So I had to look at other possibilities. So what else did I look at? I even looked here at the ridiculous move bishop h6. I mean, completely outrageous move. And I thought this is a sense of humour move. It's the kind of move where you have to have kind of a warped sense of humour to play. Dark sense of humour. I don't think it's very good. It's only good if black takes the bishop. Because now he can no longer play g6. Again, white to play and win. So many little puzzles here. This is why it contains so much depth, this opening. And of course now, knight to e5. And I doubt there's any way black's going to be able to stop my queen coming over here. But any knight move would have been good. My knight doesn't necessarily even need to come to this square. But I'll tell you what, I can't see how black's going to stop checkmate in this position. Queen's coming there, end the game. But of course, as long as black just ignores this bishop, it looks like a stupid move. So what else was I considering? Well, of course, then I was thinking, well, what about I go knight e5 straight away? Another incredibly weird move. Self-forking myself. And I thought, what about this one, Mr. Williams? And I thought, well, he clearly can only take the knight now because obviously my knight is controlling g6. So if pawn takes bishop, queen h5 check, and now after g6 I have control of g6, so knight takes g6, and this leads to checkmate. I think I don't see how black can defend, so he has to now take my knight. And here, well, I couldn't see anything, I have to admit. I mean, I looked at knight takes e5, renewing the threat. My opponent plays g6, and my final mad thought here, it shows you how, I don't know what I was smoking in the morning. Well, I do cigarettes, not anything else, and I don't recommend that. It's very bad for you, but I'm trying to give up. It might take me a while. Was queen h5. And of course, this does not work, but it's just something that the point is, if pawn takes queen, bishop e2. And if he goes d6 or moves the d pawn, bishop takes pawn, checkmate. If he moves the e pawn, let's just show that, bishop takes pawn, checkmate. But if he moves the bishop, his only way to defend is the f8 square for his king, and I'm a queen down, and I should go and find that sea to swim in. So immense complications here, but again, I couldn't get this knight to e5 simply to work. So then I came up with I won't go into everything else I was thinking of. I was, after f6, thinking of knight h4. There was plenty of madness I was thinking of, but then I came up with the move I played in the game, and it looked like the most promising and sensible option. Bishop to e3, and this keeps my bishop, attacks the pawn. I thought d6 was forced, and here I played e5 immediately, trying to blast open the centre. And again, crazy complications here. Now, in hindsight, I think e5 is a very interesting move, but if I was to play this position again, maybe simply knight b6 and something like knight takes bishop and bishop c4 would give long-term pressure on the light squares here. But I don't think black's particularly worse here. He's a pawn up, but it's a playable initiative to play. But e5 is a really interesting move. And the point of this move, again, he has a choice. If he takes with his f-pawn, I have two good moves here, of which knight g5 is probably the strongest. Aiming to continue queen f3, queen here, checkmate. And in some positions, I have bishop d3, queen here. He can't stop all the threats here. This is crushing. So I assumed at the time he had to play d takes e5, which indeed he did. And here I got a bit carried away, which I often do. A simple solution in this position would have been knight b6, and I think I have a sizable advantage here. I thought he had to give up the exchange with e6, but the computer does indicate white is better in this variation. But this is a bit dull. I don't want to allow the queens to come off. I want to checkmate the merry. I don't want to make him merry anymore. I want to make him unmerry. Put that in your pipe, Mr. Unmerry, and smoke it. So I played bishop d3, and I thought, look, I'm not allowing the queens to come off. My bishop here allows me to throw a knight to e5, go queen h5, end the game, checkmate. And Merry, from this moment on, I think played fantastic. Well, most of the game, actually. And for example, let's say he develops a piece which is a pretty sort of logical way to play, knight c6. Well, I had here prepared the killer blow, knight takes e5. And my bishop now has pressure on g6. So, for example, if he plays, let's say, pawn takes e5, demonstrates this in the most sizable way. Queen to h5 check, g6, bishop takes g6 check. This is the point behind my idea. Pawn takes, queen takes g6 check, one move, king d7, knight b6, bang. That's all I'm going to say. Checkmate. Well, that's not all I'm going to say. I'm going to keep saying some more. So that is my general idea. And other possibilities after this idea I was analysing is madness. If knight takes knight, this is slightly better. I do the same idea. I go here. Now, if he goes g6, I will take on g6 as previously, and this allows me open file on the d file, so king here, and I can even castle with mass winnage. I don't even know if that's a move, but my rook's going to just whip everything off on the open d line. And if my opponent does not play g6 but plays king d7, there's a number of ways to win. At the time, I was just going to play bishop e4 to stop his king trying to escape to c6, and renewing the threat of trying to castle and deliver checkmate would be a lovely way to win a game. I don't think I've done that yet. That's something I'm going to have to aspire to do in the future. So loads of things that my opponent has to be careful of, but he played the best move. And a move I underestimated, bishop e6. And this stops a number of my ideas. Because the bishop comes back to f7, let's say I take on e5, pawn takes e5, and if I throw a check in, simply bishop g7, and now his king has been plunged. He's put the doorstop in, as we could say. So I have to change plan now, and now I'm going to go through the next part of the game reasonably quickly, because Mary's defended against my, should we say, psychotic attack. The hillbilly on steroids attack, maybe, something like that. The caveman, the crazy caveman attack, whatever you want to call it. And he simply played very good moves. So I now grab the rook, but he's got 2 pawns here. 2 pawns for the exchange, which is going to be good compensation. And now knight d7, another excellent move. I was only banking on, when I went into this variation of rook a7, which is a horrible move, and then bishop takes c5, and Merry is completely lost here because he can hardly move any of his pieces. This is just terminal. So again, excellent play from my opponent. Knight d7. I took on a8, and now he has 2 pawns for the exchange. Knight d2, and I castled. I threw Freddy up the board. What I was thinking here is like, right, I have to be a bit careful now. I don't think I have an advantage at all. And if my opponent can simply, if I do not do anything, and if he can castle, go f5, e4, his pawn formation, generally a minor piece and 2 pawns is stronger than a rook, especially in the early middle game. So I thought I've got to play with some urgency here. So I wanted to play f4, hoping my opponent would castle without thinking. And then I'm going to use Freddy, f5, and after an exchange on f5, my rook comes over and I'm the one attacking again. So Alan saw this idea and dealt with the complications much better than me, to be fair. I think I wore myself out earlier on by thinking these lunatic lines. Knight d5, much better move. Attacking the bishop, queen e2, and now excellent move, bishop h6, pinning my f-pawn down. Knight c4, Alan captured on e3, and his queen came into a central square. Now I played rook to e1, because what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to stop my opponent playing bishop takes f4, because now I have rook takes f4, and I take on e6, so I'm going to be winning this structure. But my opponent now played very well. I was worried about king f7 here at the time. I wasn't sure how I was going to face this move, because the rook now enters the game. Now I was quite happily surprised when my opponent played knight to f8, but here I played a terrible error. Had I just played the simple g3 move, which looks suspect, I think I'm a very human-like player. I see weaknesses, I see the light square weaknesses, and I don't analyse this move. But had I played this move g3, I'm probably actually better, and I may well have gone on to win this game. But I played here instead rook d1, miscalculating quite horribly. My opponent took on f4, I saw this, and now I play queen f2, and I suddenly realised here, I thought my opponent, my threat, I thought was bishop takes g6, but I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, that's not a threat, because I open up his rook. Oh my goodness me, what an idiot I am, I thought. And I suddenly saw that I'm in trouble after queen d4. And it was only around this moment in time where I thought, hang on a minute, I think I could lose this game. It's only around here when my opponent had been playing excellently. He'd been playing, so many ways he could have gone wrong. He was on the back foot. He's defended like a star. And now he starts to take control. And it was around here the doubts started creeping in. And the point is, after queen d4, if I play bishop takes g6 now, looks like I win the queen, my opponent just takes with a pawn. What a resource. And now if I whip his queen off, he just goes bishop takes h2 check, king h1, bishop g3 check. And I totally overlooked this idea. Otherwise, I would have played g3, I think. Playing a bit too quick, and this is quite a typical mistake I do in my games. I've got to slow down at critical moments. So my opponent, I played G3, stopping that idea, and now he played another move which I underestimated. Bishop takes C4. Excellent move, because now if I play bishop takes G6, he takes with his knight on G6. And I suddenly realised, okay, if I win his queen here, I have to take his bishop because he's got loads of pieces. But now he goes knight takes, and he's only got 2 minor pieces for my queen. But my king is really, this is like open the Red Sea and let them die like ants kind of situation. This king is going to have the whole Red Sea topple down on it. I mean, he's got knight H3 checks. He's got rook to G8. It's completely lost to me. Just rook G8, bishop D5, and I was like, oh, I can't do this either. So I suddenly had to try to bail out here with pawn takes F4. And my opponent now entered into an ending. He swapped everything off. And unfortunately for me, I'm about 400 pawns down in this ending. And okay, I've got 2 rooks, but he's got 400 pawns. And he played excellently. He was quite short of time. I tried a little bit of Williams hustle, trying to win this A pawn, gives me practical chances. Mary being quite greedy, never lets me have that pawn. And now comes the avalanche. Oh dear, look at this cluster. This is a cluster of I don't know, hailstorms coming down the board. And okay, around here, brilliant move, keeping my rook trapped out. And after H3, I realised I was lost, and I kind of play my next move at a tempo, but it's too late here. My opponent is going to move his rook around to the D file, queen his pawn, my rook is out of the game. I fell into a fork, doesn't matter, it was game over by this stage anyway. Whew. So what I mean, I really, I'm quite a bad loser, I'll be honest, and I rarely analyse my losses. I prefer to run away and have a little cry somewhere in the corner of the room, or hit the pub, one of the two. But I thought Alan wanted to analyse, and I thought, very interesting game. I was happy-ish to analyse that game with him because it had some very exciting moments, and all credit to him because he played excellently well to deal with, should we say, my load of tricks. It was like, you know, I had more tricks than the circus there, but he dealt with them in a brilliant manner. And anyway, I just thought, very exciting game. Okay, I lost that game. Certainly a good fight, though, and don't know what you think of the game. Please leave your comments below. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you like and subscribe, that would be excellent. Please like, please subscribe. Remember, it's only just a little click to press like. So if you watch the video, if you've watched it this far through, press that stupid button there, and you know, that'll do me a good favour. Tell your friends about it. If someone even puts it on Reddit, I feel bad about posting this up on Reddit. If someone gives a link to Reddit, thank you very much, son. Anyway, down the pub now because it's a bloody nice day. So won't be doing a video until tomorrow. See you later.